welcome back to the Lonestar Collective, the official podcast of the Texas Cannabis Collective. I'm your host, Chris Grisolia, and I am joined this week by a special guest, Dr. Gabrielle Morris. Hello, Gabrielle. How are you?
I'm excellent, thanks.
You are from an organization called Duber Medical. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, what your specialties are, and then tell us a little bit about Duber Medical and what y'all do.
Well, first of all, Gramps, thanks so much for having us here. We're really excited about what we do, and we're super excited about growing in Texas because we'll talk about the CURT program and the upgrades that have happened. So your timing is great. We appreciate being here. I am the Chief Medical Officer of Duber Medical. That means I'm the head doctor. I do the teaching for the other doctors and nurse practitioners at our company. Our company is in a total of 11 states, including Texas, because we are huge believers in the safety of medical cannabis to help patients. In Texas, you have a handful of diagnoses where it's clearly legal for us to guide patients. Our group, myself, I'm a neurological surgeon. I'm a brain and complex spine surgeon, board certified. In addition, I worked in emergency medicine during COVID, and I'm a cannabis expert. I've been a supporter of medical cannabis since the first law in California back in 1996, Prop 215.
Okay.
Our doctors at Duber, we have about 15 of us. All of us are experienced physicians in different specialties. We all have a long track record of the safety of cannabis, evaluating patients. Our primary mission is to teach patients how to use it safely. It's more than just getting the card. But that's kind of it in a nutshell, and I'm happy to talk more about it, Texas specific. But that's who we are for starters.
Well, that's a lot right there in a nutshell. So y'all basically, from what I've seen on your website, y'all provide a service of helping people get their cards as well in the states where they have cards. I know Texas, we don't actually have a physical card. It's prescription. Right. But so y'all do this in how many states now?
So we do it in a total of 11 states. Our plan was we were going to cap it at 10, but 10 and 11 kind of came in together at the same time. Texas is a state we went live a year ago. And like you said, it's not a physical card. And quite frankly, I'm very guilty of using that slang. Everyone calls it a card.
Sure.
But actually in most states, in every state, it's based on what the law is. So we do the state specific processes. Like you said, in Texas, what we do, the service that we do is we're doctors, we meet with patients. At the end of the patient appointment, we generate the legal document that allows the patient to purchase medical cannabis in that state and then use it at home for their condition. Okay. So in Texas, it is called a prescription, and our doctors actually log right into what's called CURT, the Compassionate Use Registry of Texas, and we enter it right in there. A dispensary can then see that. So our patients are able to shop in Texas and treat their approved medical conditions.
Okay. And you mentioned something about some recent updates to CURT. What all did that entail?
Well, I will tell you that it's not as much as recently or as fast as I would personally love to see it or our company. But from the institution of CURT, it was very, very rigid and very limited on which physicians could participate and which patients could participate. And as you know, initially there were only 3 dispensaries. They have, over the handful of years, about every other year, they've made some tweaks. Now more physicians can participate, more patients can participate. The program itself is limited on the strength of the THC, and it's not one of the highest yet. But I'm encouraged by seeing the fact that Texas is really reevaluating this on an annual basis. As you know, this past spring, there was a bill in one of your chambers of the state legislature to expand the program. It hasn't gone fully yet, but we're really excited because that's the groundswell we see before the floodgates open. But there are definitely patients in Texas right now that are benefiting, and there are many more that can benefit from the current program. But we're watching as it expands because that's the advantage of our knowledge from the other states.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You know, one thing that you talk about, that bill, it was a great bill too, because it was going to add chronic pain, which would open the door to a wealth of millions of Texans to that possibility of medication, another alternative to opioids. Oh, wait, that's something we're trying to fight. But and of course, that was our approach from the collective's point of view.
Absolutely.
This past session, those were the two. There were two things we pushed imperatively, and that was the fact that it's even the AMA recognized in January that it is an opioid reduction tool.
Absolutely.
And, then the second thing was the most recent polls in January said that 67% of the population said just legalize it already. Talking about the population of Texas. So those were two of our biggest arguments throughout the session. Unfortunately, because our governor made such big promises in his reelection campaign over property tax and that type of thing, and getting a property tax relief bill, a real relief bill, so he could make good on those promises, or at least show that he tried. No legislation regarding cannabis, hemp, or otherwise made it through the session. They're basically dead. We're unless for some reason the governor were to call a special session specifically with those topics in mind, or was open to them being added by the House or the Senate after the special session went through or started, we're looking at 2025 before we have another chance for any expansion through the legislature. So there's probably not going to be much change in that regard for the next year and a half, basically.
And I know I share your disappointment with that. I do. But again, I'm a glass half full kind of gal. You nailed a couple key points. The chronic pain is the diagnosis that most adults that really gives them the ability to access the product. The other, and the AMA and all of us in medicine have nailed it. It's definitely, marijuana is far safer than opiates. Our happiest patients are those that have gotten rid of the opiates or other pharmacology. Even patients getting rid of their anti-inflammatory versus using the THC are very happy, and it's better for the kidneys. So again, like I answered earlier, I'm disappointed that Texas hasn't gone further, but I'm encouraged by the activity. And again, as you nailed it, the quality of that bill, the goals of what we're going through, It will get there. And that's a year and a half, that's a blink of an eye. And then it means another year after that, and you'll have widespread dispensaries because you'll have more product growing in state.
Well, that's one thing we are still kind of waiting for. DPS is the regulatory authority over the TCUP program, and they are still looking at, they had an open license application process that ended in April. And they basically board with someone who's in the industry to be like the head of that board. And I think now they've chosen someone or something. I don't know. It's all hearsay at this point, but, they're still kind of looking at the process because the program is still growing in numbers of patients, regardless of any conditions being added or not this time around. So there may be a few more dispensaries added between now and 2025 anyway. It just depends. So I know if there's not, there's going to be, because I think there were hundreds of applicants from what I understand. So they're not going to add that many. I can promise you, not at this stage of the game, and not without any expansion this past session. But that just shows you the interest in Texas, that there were hundreds of applications.
67% of the population of Texas is a huge force.
Well, that's what I keep saying, and that's a good segue to go into our first sponsor break. And then we'll go right back into that whole storyline of what that 67% means to me, and what I think we could do if we could motivate that 67%. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick sponsor break. And then when we get back, we're going to talk about just what we were talking about there, that there's 67% of the population of Texas who say they are for legalization. So maybe we need to tap into that power. We'll talk about that right after this.
You should attend the Fuck Cancer Party. It's a fundraiser for some patients. Ladies' dance party where you bring a friend with you. It's being hosted by Mary J. July 29th is the day. 6 to 9 p.m. You should head out that way. 2110 South Lamar, Austin, Texas. Ain't that far. You could get there in your car and bring a friend. You can get tickets and information if you go on the browser and visit our website. Visit texascanico.com/events. Find out more information and buy tickets.
Join us on August 17 for the Texas Cannabis Roundup in Fort Worth, Texas at the Longhorn Ice House. This will be an industry networking event featuring speakers in a robust Texas-style venue. The event starts at 5:15 p.m. and will last until 9:45 p.m. Visit TexasCannabisRoundup.com to get tickets today, so you can join us at the Longhorn Ice House on August 17th at 5 p.m.
Howdy, Colt Power here. These days, many people are choosing to add CBD to their wellness routine. Why? Some like CBD for how it may help them with their focus. Others enjoy the way the plant compound may assist them with their sore muscles and relaxation. For me, CBD has been a game changer in keeping my old sports injuries managed so I can work out and be present for my family. If you've ever been curious about CBD, I invite you to check out our Texas-grown, Texas-made products at powerbiofarms.com. That's power, BIOPHARMS.com.
Thrive Apothecary offers an experience truly unique from anything else in Texas. A full-service cannabis solution that is doctor-owned and offers customers every level of cannabis legally available in Texas. From traditional CBD products to emerging hemp-derived THC edibles, smokables, and now medical cannabis. As a licensed medical cannabis provider, prospective patients from anywhere in Texas can book a sponsored online eligibility consultation to determine if they qualify for a medical marijuana prescription from the comfort of their own home. Visit thrivetx.com for more information.
Welcome back to the Lonestar Collective podcast, the official podcast of the Texas Cannabis Collective, distributed on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and many more, to give Texans information regarding policy, industry, and culture. And now, back to this week's show.
Back to the Lone Star Collective, the official podcast of the Texas Cannabis Collective. I'm your host, Chris Persolia, and I'm joined this week, as I said earlier, by Dr. Gabrielle Morris of Dibber Medical. Welcome back.
Thanks. We
were talking, or started to talk about a very, very touchy subject to me. The 67% of the Texas population, and what you said, that's a huge number, because it is when you think about in terms of the population of the state of Texas as a whole. Because when you do the math, it's a little over 19 million people.
Nice.
You know, and I just keep saying, if we could just get 10% of that to get active on cannabis related matters, not just in answering questions when a pollster calls or stops you in the shopping center and asks you a question, or, you know, actually getting involved with our lawmaker and saying, hey, I support this. And that's all you got to do, really. That's what we try to tell people. And what I try to stress, you don't have to say, I need it, my kid needs it, this is my story. You don't have to do any of that. All you got to do is say, I support it. And they have to record it. And if they have a whole bunch of people say that versus 10 or 20 that say the opposite, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to support it, because to them, those are votes. If you're willing, you know, especially if you're willing to get involved and contact them, they're pretty sure you're going to vote, you know. So I mean, I don't know what your thought process is on that. If you got any advice on how we can maybe motivate people, I'd love to hear it.
You know, I wish I had a simple answer, but, you know, it really is. It's that picking up the phone, calling them. It's easier today than any time before. You can ask Google who your representatives are, and you can just click 2 buttons and send that note. And like you said, I love your approach. It doesn't have to be the whole story. You don't have to tell your confidential information. Just tell your elected representatives, yes, I want this. It's so easy. You can send, you know, these links. You click, bam, 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 and you got it. And you can do all your elected representatives, you know, in both your local chambers, as well as your statewide officials. And I think also to reiterate to the governor, yeah, everyone wants a price break on their property taxes, absolutely. But to also have, you know, this cannabis, and there's so much money that the state can get from the cannabis program if they were to expand it, that then can be used for state programs, for state citizens, you know.
Sure.
That's, if nothing else, you'd want the politicians to pay attention. Like you mentioned, they want their votes, they want their money.
Yeah.
You want the patients to have the goodness, but if you can translate it to their language, maybe we'll get more effect. But yes, the simple click, send an email, takes you just a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm. We have a little dilemma in terms of the tax revenue that you mentioned. We have a little dilemma here in Texas, where the amount of cannabis revenue, of course, now keep in mind, this past session, we did have a hearing on a full legalization bill.
Okay.
That's all it was a hearing. And its only purpose was have a hearing. They knew it wasn't going to go, the author knew it wasn't going anywhere from there. We knew it wasn't going anywhere from there. But the purpose of it was, once they had a hearing on a bill, the budget committee had to do proposed revenue broadcast. So
tell me more.
So they saw how many millions, and they were very, very, very conservative in their estimates. And they even showed some downfall in revenue in the beginning from the lack of prosecutions.
Okay.
So, which I get it. But it was hundreds of millions of dollars over the next 5 years, you know, that they're looking at going away. But here's the problem. This happened in a session where they're looking at a $31 billion surplus from the last budget cycle. They don't need the money. But that's the wrong way to look at it, in my opinion.
I absolutely agree. I mean,
so much Texas does need done, you know, infrastructure wise and otherwise, especially with as many people that are freaking moving here.
And I'll tell you, other states have set a precedent. Missouri, they donate millions of dollars every year to their veterans programs. Pennsylvania has a program where they pay for the indigents. Ohio waives fees for indigents and drops fees for veterans. So there's all kinds of goodness that can come within the state back to the citizens. But the idea is, again, why have an opiate crisis when you can have marijuana instead and have a lot greater public safety as well as patient satisfaction? Again, I mean, patients getting off their pills are some of our happiest patients across the board in all the Duber states.
And some of your healthiest too, I would imagine.
Yes, sir. Yes, because
I mean, that just goes without saying. I mean, I myself, even though I don't live in I do. Technically, I qualify for the C-Cup program. I've just never bothered to sign up because neuropathy is a condition, and I suffer from neuropathy from a blood disorder. That basically, when I found out about it, was because of the neuropathy and the symptoms I was having was what made my GP go, let's look a little deeper on your blood work this time. And she spotted something off. And then, of course, then I had to go to oncology, had bone marrow biopsies and everything else and blah, blah, blah. But basically what I have is, you may be familiar, it's called MGUS, monoclonal gammopathy of undetermined significance.
Right.
So
it's significant. It causes neuropathy. So
yeah, it's significant in my life.
It's just, it's not the whole multiple myeloma sequence of events. So it doesn't
Exactly.
have that, it doesn't have that detrimental label with it, or kind of sentence, if you'll say.
Yeah.
But it's still absolutely, anything that causes neuropathy is going to be a diffuse process that's progressive and painful.
Yeah. So they had me on, started me out on 400 milligrams of gabapentin. And of course it seemed to work at first, you know, and then 6 months or so went by and it wasn't working anymore. So let's just bump it to 800 milligrams right off the get-go. And I didn't take it very long, and I said, I'm done with this. I didn't like the side effects, you know. And then when I started reading up about some of the long-term side effects, if you're on a long-term, which I obviously was going to be, you know, I said, no, we're getting rid of this. It's got to go. You know, so, and I've used CBD and cannabis ever since, you know.
And they work great. And the beauty of cannabis and CBD, first of all, you mentioned right there, the fact is, now that we're combining the two plants and products, we've enhanced the safety and enhanced the therapeutic profile. So across the board, these products offer much greater range of safety than traditional pharmacology. But the other is, we've got this whole range of products to pick from in the modern dispensaries. So there's a lot of teaching that we do at Duber as the doctors in the appointment with the patient to try and individualize. I like to tell patients, we give you the guardrails. We teach you the basics, we give you the guardrails, but you drive the bus as you learn which products will help you better as an individual. It's one thing for us to say this subtype of marijuana, such as sativa, speeds you up. It can trigger anxiety. It can make anxiety worse. But some of my patients with anxiety still will love it. Majority will avoid that. But that's the purpose of having some medical guidance. But the beauty is, again, this range of safety and range of choices of products. That's what makes it really exciting, because you as a patient will individualize it.
Yeah. That's one thing I tell a lot of people, you know, when they ask me, and of course, first thing I tell them, I'm not a doctor. I don't give medical advice. If you want medical advice, you need to contact a doctor. But I can tell you what I do know. Yeah, I can tell you what I do know. It won't hurt you. As long as you've got something from a trusted source. That's one of the key reasons why we fight for legalization as a whole, even for adult use, you know, is because, you know, that's what, I mean, I spent the entire session in Austin myself. I left my job back in January and basically drove back and forth to Austin every week for about 4.5 months, and met with lawmaker after lawmaker after lawmaker. Some of them was the lawmakers themselves. Some of them was just their staff members, but still a meeting nonetheless, and productive, a lot of them. But one of the things I said, you know, I always started out with our priorities were to expand medical. And the second priority is to decriminalize so that we're no longer ruining people's lives for a victimless crime. And then the third thing I would bring up, if they would let me, would be, and I would say, you know, I know it's not the subject everyone wants to talk about, but if you at least let me ask 2 questions in regard to the legalization subject, I'd appreciate it. And of course, that hooks them every time and lets me ask the 2 questions. And the 2 questions were, number one, have we stopped anyone who really wants to use cannabis in Texas with any of these laws that prohibit it? And I either get that response, silence, or because they don't want to answer the question, usually.
Right.
or it's the immediate, well, no, which is the honest answer.
Correct.
And then, of course, I'll go immediately into, I can tell you what we have been doing is ruining young people's lives, since 95% of the people who are arrested in Texas for possession, minor possession, are between the ages of 18 and 25. So we're basically ruining young people's lives for maybe a one-time fling. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then the second question is, wouldn't it make more sense to have a fully legal, regulated, third-party tested, with protections in place for our youth, where we could generate a revenue stream that we could funnel money to things like youth addiction or mental health, et cetera, rather than what we have now, at least where people would know what they're putting in their bodies, since we're not stopping anybody anyway.
My goodness. You are preaching to the choir, my friend. Absolutely.
But, it's I couldn't help myself. I had the opportunity, the window, and I took it every time I could, and like we were saying before, it's not that we're asking everybody to do that. All we're saying is, if you see us on social media or here on the show or something posting about a bill next session saying, hey, we support this bill, contact your lawmakers, click, like you said, like Doc said, and it's a done deal.
It adds up. And, that majority of 2/3, it will work. It will work. And again, I share your frustration, because you yourself have put in all these hours and are really on the ground doing the efforts. But I have to look at it a little bit different. I voted for the very first cannabis law, Prop 215 in California in 1996. Okay. I was already a physician then. Who would have thought? It's 26 years later, 26 and a half years later. It's come this far. 38 states have some form of it, and 4 territories, some form of medical cannabis. We now have experts. You're a professional in the industry. The industry has grown. We are getting recognition because it's legit. It's fabulous for patients. It's very safe. And on the heels of the opioid crisis, who in their right mind wouldn't welcome this and usher in the modern era? But by the same token, we're similar in age. Our whole lives, we've been raised with illegal, bad, illegal, sneaky. So a lot of it is overcoming that stigma. And I think that is also impacting what you're seeing. It's easier for 2/3 of people to say, yeah, man, I support it. But now you want me to write a letter. Okay, that's putting my name on it. And I think that's where you're getting some of it, because we see the same thing even with our one-to-one patients. People singing our praises want to expand our program, but don't like to write a review, because then my neighbor's going to know I've got the card. I've got cannabis. My neighbor's going to know, the people in my church, the people at my job. So that stigma is still out there, but it's remarkable. Again, 26 years, how far it's come. A year and a half to getting more laws in Texas is a short time span in the meantime. And like you said, we're already helping people. And if we look at the first current law, how restrictive they were to now, to today, even in the past handful of years, we've made progress in Texas. But you're right, there's that big last leap. So I think that's one of it. It's easy, it's user-friendly, but, at some point you can say, like you said, you can support it without your neighbor having to know you got an actual card, because it's HIPAA protected, confidential.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that being said, we're going to have to go to our next sponsor break. And then when we come back, I want you to get into, where everybody can find Duber Medical and all that good information. So
excellent.
When we get back.
Thank you.
Like I said, we're going to take another quick sponsor break. And then after that sponsor break, we're going to learn all about where you can find Duber Medical and get their help.
You should attend the Fuck Cancer Party. It's a fundraiser for some patients. Ladies' dance party where you bring a friend with you. It's being hosted by Mary J. July 29th is the day. 6 to 9 p.m. You should head out that way. 2110 South Lamar, Austin, Texas, ain't that far. You could get there in your car and bring a friend. You can get tickets and information if you go on the browser and visit our website. Visit texascanico.com/events. Find out more information and buy tickets.
Join us on August 17 for the Texas Cannabis Roundup in Fort Worth, Texas at the Longhorn Ice House. This will be an industry networking event featuring speakers in a robust Texas-style venue. The event starts at 5:15 p.m. and will last until 9:45 p.m. Visit TexasCannabisRoundup.com to get tickets today, so you can join us at the Longhorn Ice House on August 17th at 5 p.m.
Howdy, Colt Power here. These days, many people are choosing to add CBD to their wellness routine. Why? Some like CBD for how it may help them with their focus. Others enjoy the way the plant compound may assist them with their sore muscles and relaxation. For me, CBD has been a game changer in keeping my old sports injuries managed so I can work out and be present for my family. If you've ever been curious about CBD, I invite you to check out our Texas-grown, Texas-made products at powerbiofarms.com. That's power, BIOPHARMS.com.
Thrive Apothecary offers an experience truly unique from anything else in Texas. A full-service cannabis solution that is doctor-owned and offers customers every level of cannabis legally available in Texas. From traditional CBD products to emerging hemp-derived THC edibles, smokables, and now medical cannabis. As a licensed medical cannabis provider, prospective patients from anywhere in Texas can book a sponsored online eligibility consultation to determine if they qualify for a medical marijuana prescription from the comfort of their own home. Visit thrivetx.com for more information.
Welcome back to the Lonestar Collective podcast, the official podcast of the Texas Cannabis Collective, distributed on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and many more, to give Texans information regarding policy, industry, and culture. And now, back to this week's show.
Back to the Lonestar Collective. I'm your host, Chris Crisolia, and I'm joined this week again by our guest, Dr. Gabrielle Morris of Duber Medical. Welcome back.
Thank you.
As we were saying right before we went to the show, let's let everybody know, all our viewers and listeners, where they can find Duber Medical and how they can get Duber Medical to help them.
All righty. Well, I really appreciate that. As you can see, I got our logo on our shirt, my shirt, Duber Medical, but it's really that simple. It's dubermedical.com, and that is our comprehensive website. We also have a toll-free number that's on there. I'll just throw it out there, 833-977-2424. You don't have to memorize it, but it's on our website. Our website is user-friendly for both smartphones or laptops. You can book your own appointment. You can call us. You can email us. We're happy to answer questions, but we also have some resources. We have specific educational resources on our website. You can also click from our website to our YouTube channel. It has 3 to 5 minute videos. All of these are free, and you don't have to be our patient, but you can start learning about the safety of cannabis and the different choices in a modern dispensary. Again, in order to be able to actually shop, though, you have to meet with our doctors. We do that as video appointments, just like this, from the privacy of your own home, no stigma needed. And in general, we interview you and we focus your appointment to what your symptoms are so that you learn what products will help you safely.
And that's always a very important part, is what products to use, because it varies depending upon the person. Even two different people with the same condition.
Exactly.
We use different products. That's what I started to say earlier. I think I got sidetracked, but yeah.
And that's also
different for everybody.
And that's what I was talking about earlier too. We give you the guardrails, we teach you the generalities, but then you drive the bus. And I like to tell new patients, you learn what your favorites are. But what's really nice is you're picking between good and better. And again, because the therapeutic safety is there, I'm comfortable that my patients are at home really test driving their different doses, their different products. And it doesn't take that long for you to really individualize what works for you. But you're right. It's not just the generalities are based on the disease process, your medical history, your medications. So we take that into account. We give you a starting point. We give you a range. And then it's generally once a year that you meet with us. That's required. We are available more if you want us more, of course. But at the annual appointment, then we like to talk about, hey, what have you learned? What's helping you? And then I go from Chris, what helps you? And you talk to me about that. And then we individualize and try to go further directions. Because remember, it's legal in 38 states. So we have lots of science and lots of data and lots of combinations that we didn't have a couple of years ago. Yeah. And on top of that, yes, like you said, you hinted, we also stay up with the laws. So if you're one of our patients, when we renew you, we automatically remind you, okay, this changed in your state at this point. And yes, we urge advocacy when states are passing better laws. We want, we're very much on our patient's side. So when we can urge that, we do. But again, that's the big project. And I think when we work together from both sides of the fence, the patient sides, the advocacy sides, the physician sides, if we're coming at them from different directions, we're going to get success faster.
Yeah. When I first started advocating, it was 2016, after losing this guy behind me to epilepsy. That's what got me started. And basically my first involvement with the Texas legislature wasn't until 2019, because the first year and a half to 2 years, all I did was research. And I literally would print out the studies, the scientific research, and read it to a camera and produce a video and put it on YouTube and put it on Facebook. And,
nice.
I had over 100 videos out on Facebook at one time. I lost count at 100. I quit counting.
Right.
But, and so it wasn't until 2018 when I kind of got involved with Normal here locally, and then with the Texas Normal group after that. And then, of course, now I'm with the collective, and we do some of the biggest events all around Texas.
Yeah.
So it's grown to a lot. But what I tell everybody when you're talking about, the advocacy side of things and getting involved is it's hard to get involved, like you say, because, it's putting your name down, putting a name in your face and your address and everything on paper and saying, yeah, I support this. But the one message that I have to keep pushing to everybody is, even though I was scared, I did it anyway, because I was so pissed about the truth that I had learned about the lies they used to make it illegal in the first place, and I blame those people for my son's death. And I will until I'll take that with me to my grave. And anybody who still supports prohibition, I say they have part of his responsibility on their shoulders, and many, many others along with him, so I got to do it. Right. But the thing I learned by doing it anyway, because of the anger, there's nothing to fear. Nobody's going to come knock on your door and say, saw your name on a bill, we need to search your house or something like that. It's not.
Nope. No one's coming to my house, and I'm every day encouraging it.
Nobody's followed me home from Austin, or none of that stuff. There's nothing to worry about. They really don't care. I mean, literally, this Department of Public Safety officers, Texas Highway Patrol officers, who are the security at the Capitol, right? Mm-hmm. They see our marijuana leaf, lapel pin, and they go, oh, it's the weed guys. Glad you're still in the fight. Keep it up. And that's the DPS officers at the door of the Capitol. So you really and truthfully, if you even slightly think about getting involved in the advocacy world on this subject, do it, because the group of people you're going to meet is amazing. And the fun you're going to have is out of this world, just because of the camaraderie of the people that you were going to meet and spend time with. It's amazing group of people, really. And it's from all walks of life. It's not any one segment of people like the stereotype tries to say, right?
And that's exactly what we see as well at Duber. People from all walks of life. Our patients are grown-ups living their lives and using this as a tool.
Sure. Absolutely.
And using it safely, and using it more safely than things that are legal right now, whether it's prescription or over the counter, safer than both.
Absolutely. Well, that being said, we're about out of time. Do you have any final thoughts or words that you could throw out there for our Texas advocates that maybe that will help them stay enthused and stay in the fight?
Well, that's exactly it. First of all, yes, stay in the fight, stay enthused. We now have 38 states that have some degree. You're one of those states. You've made progress. You're really close to having the full on. So definitely don't give up. Definitely keep advocating. And as far as those of you with patients and families and friends that can benefit, help them overcome the stigma. I find it's the retired population, the older patients. My adult patients have parents that need it. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of the stigma. So the stigma is both. In the advocacy, keep up the good fight, because you're getting there. You're really close in Texas. You're really close. We're able to help patients already, but you're really close to helping literally millions more. Absolutely. As far as the here and now, those diagnoses in Texas that let us help people, it's still a great product, even though it's a small scale program at this time. So if you know someone you love is having uncontrolled symptoms, like you mentioned, the neuropathy, certain of the neurologic disorders, cancers, PTSD, have them reach out to us or other knowledgeable cannabis doctors. The big thing is you want cannabis doctors who really know CBD and THC. That's the ticket. Yeah. You got to have the interest, and if we guide you, you're going to do great.
Yeah, you absolutely need to. If you're really looking for it for a medical reason, you need to reach out to either Duber Medical or your physician if they're conscientious, and knowledgeable about it. If not, there are plenty others as well.
Yes.
I want to thank you 1,000 times, Dr. Gabrielle Morris of Duber Medical, and for actually y'all reached out to us to try to come on the show. I had never even heard of Duber Medical until we got your schedule the first time around. So I've been looking forward to this conversation, and it did not disappoint. So,
Chris, thanks for having us. And part of that is timing. We are in 11 states, and we are buffing up our physician staffing. One of our doctors went from 1 day a week to full time now. So we are open and ready. And again, we've been monitoring Texas because we anticipate if we're here now with the limited program and can help you grow, because again, our enthusiasm with Texas was that bill, even though it didn't go, again, to me, that's a step in the right direction. It's going to get there. So,
well, that's what we've said is we may not got anything moving forward, but we also didn't move backwards, because there are a lot of hemp-derived cannabinoids out on the market in Texas now that are helping people that do not qualify for the Teacup program. So there's that side of things as well. Although would like to see better regulations on stuff, but it was interesting to see that there was actually a hearing in Congress about FDA regulations and whatnot on the hemp industry today. So I didn't get to watch all of it, but it was quite interesting to see the different varying opinions of the committee members before they actually started hearing testimony. It was more supportive than I actually expected with a lot of the stuff that's happened. And I'm sure you've heard about, some of these stores that are products that are out there that say they are within the 0.3% by dry weight regulation. And then when they test them, they're way over it. And so that's creating some problems out there for the guys who do play by the rules, and so I wish they'd clean all that up, but in due time.
I think it's coming really quickly, and I'm happy to do anything I can to help. And for your audience, please feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to help with advocacy. We can be creative. We're huge believers in every one of our doctors and every one of our staff is really about, we call it happy medicine because it helps people so well.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Thank you again for joining us on the show, and come back and join us again another time.
I'd be delighted, and thank you for having me. And I'm glad that's your dog, not my trio.
Yeah, I think somebody knocked on our door. But anyway, that being said, we're going to call it a show tonight, folks, and we thank you for joining us.